This episode of Recording Studio Rockstars is brought to you by iZotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Atom Audio, Spectra 1964, and Picker. In fact, you're hearing my voice right now recorded through a Spectra 1964 STX 100 mic pre and mixed with iZotope, Ozone, and RX on Atom Audio monitors and headphones. Grab my free mixing course at Mixmaster Bundle with the link in the show notes below. And please make sure to visit our fantastic sponsors also in the show notes and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel because it's a great way to help support this show. Now get ready to rock.
And what it is, it's a hacked cassette player. There's actually a variable speed potentiometer in these cassette players. I think they set it at the factory to the best of their abilities.
Right, but you can change it to what you want.
You can hack into it and then connect 4 or 5 or however many variable resistors you want. And then if you wire it up in the right way, then you can trigger different speeds of your cassette player with different keys. So what I did is, I made it so that you can change the pitch for each key with the variable resistor.
Cool.
Here. So
does
it's
it take
not
a little bit of portamento to get to the next speed?
a bit of a ramp, but it's fast.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. Rockstars, are you ready to unlock the full potential of your mixes and masters? Then you need iZotope Ozone 12. This complete tool set gives you 20 Pro modules, including the new bass control, unlimiter, and stem EQ, plus the IRC5 maximizer for loud, clean mixes and masters without distortion, including the new mastering assistant that guides, not decides, so you are always in control. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Howdy Rockstars, it's your host Lid Shaw, and welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guest today is Rich Bernett. He's very humble despite being extremely great at making instruments and music, and this is what he sent me, which is pretty much what I might have said too. Quote, "I'm not huge on selling myself, but here's something ChatGPT came up with. Rich Bernett, known as the Sound of Machines, is a Richmond, Virginia-based sound artist and builder with a unique approach to experimental music. Specializing in DIY instrument builds, his projects include the Cassettone 2, a cassette-based synthesizer, and the Rotary Drone, an innovative motor-driven device that generates sound by creating vibrations. Also, Rockstars, there's lots more. Rich combines his passion for circuit bending, contact microphones, and field recording to craft compelling sounds and immersive audio experiences. With a growing following on YouTube, Patreon, and Instagram, he shares his creative process and connects with a community of makers and musicians dedicated to exploring new sonic possibilities. Basically, Rockstars, Rich is awesome, and you're going to love this interview. He is so good at explaining these amazing musical contraptions on his YouTube channel, which I highly recommend. The link for that will be in the show notes for watching after this interview. Please welcome Rich Bernett to Recording Studio Rockstars. Rich, my friend, are you ready to rock, dude?
I am. Lidge, thank you so much for having me on. This is cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And, everybody's getting sick of me explaining this, but, that was like try number 2 or 3 there for getting out of the gates with but hey, that's what we got to do in podcasts and, live video stuff.
Yeah, you're talking to somebody who's been on the front side of the camera a number of times, so I know how it goes.
Yeah. Well, welcome, dude. You are joining us from Richmond now, and it looks like you're kind of in your studio setting, but I think it's a little bit more of a workshop vibe.
Yep. You got it. So initially, when we moved into this house here in Richmond, my wife, who does jewelry, chose the room that she wanted for her jewelry studio, and I chose this room to be a recording spot. But over the past few years, it's definitely turned more into a maker space than solely a recording spot. I mean, if you can kind of see some of the video, it's not really treated much for recording, but it's still it's got a lot of stuff in it. And that so far has been my only studio audio treatment. But yeah, you're right. It is when I refer to it as my studio, I'm definitely leaning more towards the maker side of it than the recording side.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. And I mean, that becomes clear when we see your YouTube videos. But, you know, we've also got your music in the show notes. So Rockstars, I've got a playlist of the records that Rich is putting out. And I'm telling you, you got to check this stuff out. It's super cool sounds. It's just great music. It's adventurous, and the sounds make you want to hit the studio. So when you set up your studio and you started recording, were you thinking, I'm going to go just make my music? And then you sort of started stumbling into the part where you're creating all these sounds, and then that led you to YouTube? How did that happen?
Yeah. So like with anything else, you know, it's a little step this way, a little step that way, a little step this way. But my passion for music, you know, playing and recording music, I should say, goes way back to, I'd say high school is really when there was a switch that turned on. When one of my friends lent me the Tascam Porta Studio, you know, 4-track. That's a common story, I think, with a lot of engineers.
Now, what decade are we talking about for you?
Early 90s. So 92, 93 is when...
it's a good time to discover a 4-track, man.
Yeah. So, you know, they were still on the shelves of my local music shop before Guitar Centers and all the other ones. And it was like the holy grail. So I'd mow lawns and do odd jobs till I could afford my own. But yeah, that kind of set me on the, let's say, path, for lack of a better word, of being a musician, you know, a recording musician. Like I loved writing music, still do. I love writing and recording music and performing. But yeah, somewhere I would say there are a few events, again, events being a big term for it, but little things that I found here and there in my journey. Circuit bending in the early 2000s popped onto my radar.
You want to give a brief introduction? What is circuit bending for somebody who's never heard that term yet?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think, more popular now than it's ever been. I almost feel like it might have hit the peak popularity and now it's kind of going back down. But circuit bending is basically taking any kind of electronic device, usually something that makes noise already, and kind of rewiring it in a way that makes it create different sounds that it's not supposed to. And whether that sound is pleasing or not isn't the point. But hopefully, you know, if you're getting sounds that are usable in some sort of either performative fashion or recording fashion, you know, for me, that was always the goal. So I've got, if I turn my laptop around, you know, on this shelf over here.
Oh yeah, look at that.
So these are, let's see if I can get my hand right. Like the ones up here on the shelf I'm kind of pointing to are some of my first forays into electronics even. There were a few folks online that were following the lead of a gentleman called Reed Ghazala, if that name means anything.
I don't know him yet now, but I love learning this.
Yeah, so he's kind of like the granddaddy of circuit bending. Like he was putting out tutorials and books on circuit bending before anybody knew the term circuit bending.
Wow.
Yeah, so finding his book, and then YouTube was just starting, I think, in the time that I was starting to dig into this, seeing other people's tutorials on, okay, this thing right here is called a resistor, and if we take this wire and, you know, short it, that's where my electronics education comes from.
Nice.
Yeah, so learning, I think, step by step, just out of the blue. It's nothing I ever went to learn. It just kind of showed up. It set me on this journey, with all the stuff you see behind me. And again, if I kind of pan around my room, you'll see that there's just piles of stuff. I cleaned up a little for the interview, but
Looks like old typewriters even in the back or something.
no typewriters. I'm not sure what you might be seeing. It might be, you know what you might be seeing? Are you talking about these guys?
No, they look like little, they sort of have a slightly sloped vertical face on them.
Oh, over here?
Rows of knobs or something? Or is that like a MS-20 or something?
This that I'm pointing at right here?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
These are Cassettone. So those are my own guys.
Those are your built. Oh, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I can show those to you too. But yeah, I tend to get off track when I'm answering questions, and hopefully I brought that back around to wherever we started.
Well, that's part. Yeah, I don't think we're off track at all, honestly. And it's like the thing that I probably respond to in your music is the willingness to go off track. I think that's what makes music interesting. For me, there's so much. It's so possible for people to make music that has no chaos in it these days, and so many people do that it really kind of bores me at times. But hearing somebody take adventures with their music and their sounds is just exciting. That's awesome that you picked that out. I definitely feel that same way. I actually I sublet a space out of a recording studio many, many years ago when I was just getting into video editing, which I thought was going to be my forever career path. Mm-hmm. And I got to know the owners, and we turned out to be good friends, and they let me record, on some off times, and I learned some skills there, not a lot, because I was focusing on my own company stuff. But I always felt like the recordings that I got out of that studio were beautiful. They were pristine, and they were clean, and they were mm-hmm. crisp, and they just never did it for me, because I felt like there was sort of that sense of, he didn't mean to record it like that, but it still sounded cool anyway. That sense of adventure wasn't there. And I always look for that. So even though I feel like when I record my own music, there's shortcomings, like with anybody else who's, I'm sure, listening to this podcast, I can listen to my songs and be like, oh, crap, I never did fix that. I never did fix this. But still, that I feel is a lot more enjoyable to experience and to listen to than just listening to the gloss and the sheen of everything being perfect. Yeah, that's so unusual. I mean, because like everything I've ever done, I just look back on it and think, wow, Lid, that was perfect, man. Yeah. No, not really.
Yeah, I know that's common, right?
No, that's I mean, we always talk about that on the show. Like records are never finished; they're just abandoned. I'm sure the same thing said about film and paintings and everything else. Speaking of which, you got a beautiful painting on your back wall there.
Oh, thank you.
What's the story with that? Is that one of yours?
That's one of mine. That is the third painting that's been on that particular panel of wood. And
I love it, man. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty large.
Like same canvas, in other words.
Yeah. And I think I hit a spot a few years ago. It's pretty big. I don't know if it's easy to tell how. If you don't mind me going a little across the room here for 1 second, you can see the size of it.
We'll give it a try. You may have to yell. Oh yeah, that's a big one. Oh, you got that's a pretty sizable room you're in too.
Yeah, it's a decent size. So there was a time there in my journey that I had to put music and sound stuff aside for a bit and get back to my roots, which was visual arts. I have a lot of roots, nice. I think, in different artistic focuses.
Nice, man. But like me, we share one root story in common. They see the roots that used to be on top of our head are just more of a memory these days.
Yeah,
we got roots elsewhere.
Yeah. If I let it grow any more than this, I look silly. So I try to keep it.
You
short
should have seen me in
days.
the long hair and long beard days, man.
I
look
saw
like a
pictures
skinny
of you.
Rick Rubin.
I love it.
Yeah. So you were bringing up contact microphone. Did you bring that up? I guess in the very beginning, maybe we brought that up.
In the recording that decided it wanted to stop recording, I think I had mentioned them.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I don't want to cut you off on if you were heading in a direction, but contact mics is one of the things that I think actually the first video I saw of yours was about making loops with guitar pedals. And I was like, what the hell? And, watched the video and I was like, this is awesome,
Well, the way it's hard to explain it because even I, when you just said that, thought, well, yeah, there's a lot of guitar pedals that make loops. But yeah, not like recording a 15-second loop that then replays, but yeah, literally plugging a guitar pedal back into itself as a
feedback loop.
Signal. Feedback loop, yeah.
Why don't we just start with that topic? What does that mean to plug a guitar into itself? People will be like, make a nice handle. You could just carry your pedals around.
Yeah. So I'll grab one of these guys. I was, as your mind does, falling asleep one night, and it's an idea many people have had before I did, but I couldn't find any videos online of people doing this, which is what is the sound that is caught in that cable when you plug the output of an effect pedal back into itself? What the heck's going through there? And it was a very naive question, which I have learned through many comments since posting videos of people much smarter than me, giving me the whole history of modular synthesis.
Right.
But it was like, okay, well, how can I get that sound out? And the answer was by getting like these little splitters. So I actually did my first experiment on camera as part of a regular YouTube live stream that I was experimenting with. And it kind of rocked my world. So I was just using a simple... I'm looking behind me here for those who aren't watching to see if I can find the pedal. It was just flashback, one of those, I think TC Electronic.
A delay or something.
Yeah, it's just, and it's one of the little guys. They made a smaller version of it. You can see the video on YouTube still, but all of a sudden it's making the sounds of outer space. And if you're not careful, of course, the feedback, like with any other feedback, will melt your face off.
Right. It'll just, the volume can take off. Go from quiet to
exponentially
super loud, right?
very fast. So from there, I, of course, as people who like to experiment with audio will do, decided that it needed more. So what happens if I then make that loop? What happens if I introduce another pedal into that loop? And of course, it just ups the chaos. And I realized, people might want some of these sounds to use for their own projects.
Yeah.
Because on Instagram and stuff, I do get a lot of people saying, hey, can I snag this audio for sampling? And so I was like, yeah, sure. This was just kind of a off the cuff thing, but absolutely. So I decided to keep going with it and just to build like a library of weird pedal feedback sounds. And in that process, I've learned a lot about how audio signals work, and also modular synths. Because basically what I wound up with, if you see some of the YouTube videos, is my tabletop is just crammed full of effect pedals that are both looping into themselves and then being sent into another looping system, which can be controlled, with attenuation or gain here and there to, again, just send you off into the stratosphere with these sounds. So you get some really neat results.
Dreaming of a career in audio or the entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs where you'll learn on professional-grade gear with industry pros, learning through real projects, not just lectures. Explore studio production, live sound, audio for film, and a whole lot more. Or take the entertainment business program to learn about contracts, promotion, and more. With diploma, associate, and bachelor's programs, there's a path for you. Book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Have you tried so let me back up for just a sec. So the way the loop, so Rockstars, imagine a guitar pedal and you just take the output and take a cable and go back to the input. And like I said, it would make a good handle. You could carry it. But then to Rich's point, how would you hear what was happening in that moment? So it's just a simple Y cable at the output, right?
Yeah.
Or
it doesn't matter if it's in the input or output, and somebody will correct me in the comments to say, yes, it does matter. But I mean, if you think about it, like you were saying, yeah, it makes a nice little handle. And actually one of the thumbnails on the YouTube video, I think, is just me literally holding this in front of my face.
There you go.
Saying,
Yeah, that's how you get to your gigs now.
Yeah. They're all in their little handles. But yeah, so how do you hear this? Yeah. How do you hear what's going on? That's where these splitters come in. So this happens to be the input. I hate that they don't label this one, but it's pretty obvious. This is the output. I just happened to plug it in there because it was the one I unplugged first. I'm going to plug the output, still going through the input. So this is still, if you can see it, this is still,
you know, you can bring that, if you're showing a detail, you can just bring it in close to the camera too. It'll make it a lot easier for people.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the whole loop. So you can see that it's still, a looping signal going around. But now what the splitter has given us is this kind of this off ramp. So it's another guitar cable output. So now I can take the audio signal that's going through this loop and send it out to an amplifier, or in my case, to Ableton. So I can hear it, record it, stream it, and you can affect it after this with whatever you want to, if you're into your VSTs and stuff, and then you're off to the races.
That's super cool. So the next questions I would have for you around that are, what pedals seem to be the most fun to use? Well, or how do I put this? What pedals seem to generate a sound? Because once you have a sound generated, then you're back in the role that pedals do, which is affect the sound that's already generated, right?
Yeah. So I've realized that there are a few favorites. There are a few stars each time I've done this, and they all lend themselves to different head spaces. But a really cool one is this, and I'm sorry, I'm going off mic for a second to grab a pedal and coming back and
just yell a lot. I'll for the audio listeners, I'll describe it.
Yeah. All right, so Rich is now walking back to his wall.
Rich is walking. He's walking back from the mic towards the back.
Solo pickle.
There you go. The pickle,
and harmonizers,
and the harmonizers,
reverb, tremolo. And
the tremolo.
The Boss Splicer.
The Boss Splicer. I love it, man. He's coming back with all the ingredients now, Rockstars.
All right.
And he's wearing a chef's outfit now.
And I've never considered myself to be a gearhead, but the collection of pedals that you probably just saw, if I turn the camera far enough, is pretty new because of figuring out or finding out that these kind of loops make really cool sounds. So exactly to your question, I kept thinking, well, what would it sound like if I put this X, Y, and Z pedal in it? So the flashback I was just showing, TC Electronic, and this is their mini guy, it was a great start. So that one, I'm not going to poo-poo that.
And that's a delay,
one.
Right?
That is a delay. It's a very basic delay. But if you want some heavy duty, thick, growling synth pads, This is a pedal that one of my friends gave me, and it looks like it's called the Wallen Pickle by Way Hug. But it's a swollen pickle by Way Huge. Just some of it has worn off, and it's a fuzz pedal that I use for my bass, and it's just dirty. It's nasty. I love it. And for this kind of feedback loop, it is awesome. Because then if you feed that one, say you have like a low C coming through this thing, just a low C. Well, once you run it through one of these guys, which is a harmonizer pedal, and the video might be backwards, so
Who's what no, it looks good to me. What brand is that makes the harmonizer there?
These are, I swear, it's probably just these white label manufacturers coming out of China that then sell these to manufacturers to put their name on it. This is Rowin, Rowin. I don't even know if they're like a real
one of those
company.
Amazon brands. Or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
I've gotten some loop pedals like that too that are fun.
Yeah. So it's like I just wanted it to be utility almost. I didn't want it for its fidelity, but it turns out running these feedback loops through harmonizers, then if you do a split, so you've got your original sound, say this swollen pickle is putting out some nasty like C note, but then you run one split through a harmonizer as well, all of a sudden you've got harmonies happening that turn what might just be a sound into a melodic sort of soundscape. And what's cool about these harmonizer pedals, and by the way, I bought 4 more after buying this one to have like a whole orchestra of harmonies, is that you can change the harmonic scale. Maybe that's the wrong word, but the note.
It'll stick to a particular scale.
Yeah. It'll stick to a scale, but every time I crank this, it'll change the note. There's my...
Just because of the... Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so it gives you these great just orchestral vibes. Some of the videos I've posted using this on Instagram have just taken off because people want to tell you what it reminds them of. And a lot of times it's like, man, this is taking me back to being a child, and it's crazy. It's just something about the harmonies and the scale that this is on. But beyond that one, this Red Panda particle, this is maybe one of the more expensive pedals that I've bought in my collection.
Wow.
This guy does some really cool things. So this is a grain delay, kind of a granulator pedal. So it does some cool, grab and hold of a section of sound, and then it applies its own effects to those little granules.
Sort of like the what's the not the kaleidoscope. I forgot what it's called. There's a pedal that's out now that it remembers things that happened earlier and pitch shifts and all that kind of stuff.
There's so many crazy pedals.
It's because of the digital world, really now.
Sure.
Lots possible, right?
Yeah. So that one gives you really cool results. And then, I've got a tremolo that's really good for taking one of those crazy looping signals and giving it a bit of a rhythm, for lack of a better word. And when you plug one of your mono feedback loops then into a stereo, reverb, then all of a sudden you're opening up that space. So I use that digital reverb a lot. And then finally I found that this slicer, this Boss slicer, is awesome.
Yeah, what's the slicer do?
So this is kind of like a tremolo on steroids. So it gives you patterns, rhythmic patterns that you can flip through, and it allows you to dial in the attack of the patterns and the release. But then beyond just splitting your signal up into rhythm, it also will pitch shift the different steps. So you can get some really neat rhythmic and tonal results with this thing. I mean,
that's awesome. That's fun.
Yeah, this has been a really fun pedal play with. I can't imagine incorporating this into like a guitar rig, but for this sort of experimental stuff, it's been a blast.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a chord would be very welcome. Maybe it's more one single note stuff, but who knows?
Yeah, yeah.
With the harmonizer, I remember doing a session decades ago where we did. It was a guitar. No, it was a pedal steel, and went into a fuzz pedal, and then hit a harmonizer. And I noticed that was a better result than a harmonizer into a fuzz pedal, because something about the fuzz makes it challenging for the harmonizer. If you get the threshold just right, it's challenging to know what to grab onto to harmonize.
Yeah.
And so you get some really fun sounds like that.
Yeah, this thing's just brute force. So I'm not sure how the, digital algorithms or whatever's in it actually work, but it just pitches up no matter what you put into it. At least this one does. So it as opposed to like a Melodyne or a pitch correction software, which has to recognize the note. This one's just like, screw it. Whatever's coming in, I'm going to lift it up.
Yeah, that's great.
That's the kind of stuff I love experimenting with. So.
Well, in a way, to your point, like not quite knowing what's going on in it. I mean, that's sort of the essence of circuit bending too, right? It's like you don't quite know what's going to happen when you get in there and start messing with it, but you learn a few things, and then some of it's just a mystery.
Yeah, like there's this. Here I go back to my shelves, grabbing this Gakin synth.
We need to get you a lavalier mic so you can walk around and grab stuff.
And of course, I can't hear you when I walk back there, so I'm trying not to talk over you. But you can still find these online. This was a little kit, and it's like the stylus. You know what I'm going for here, and I'm.
Oh, the stylophone.
Stylophone. Thank you. It's like one of those. It currently doesn't have that little carbon, little line because I've taken it off. But this is a kit, and it's fun. It's a fun toy. It's a synthesizer. But I then went and circuit bent the kit, and it can now create when you're plugged direct in, just the sounds of a diesel engine sitting on your chest.
Wow!
With some of the circuit bends, and I had no idea. But you're right. Like sometimes you might go to bend something, and your first attempt fries it. And it's like, that sucks.
That's a bummer.
I've had that happen a lot. And on the other hand, there's a lot of go-to little instruments like the Casio, the SK1.
Yeah,
the first little sampling. Yeah, there are very well documented circuit bends for those that give you some really neat results. And
I may have to explore that one day.
Yeah, Reed Ghazala was the name I mentioned earlier. He actually put the first schematics out for that, as well as the old speak and spells. People buy those these days just to circuit bend them. And you'll once you recognize the sound of a circuit bent speak and spell, you'll actually recognize it in different albums where it kind of pops up here and there.
Yeah. Radiohead or no?
Beck.
Beck.
Yeah, there's one song in particular which I won't be able to remember the name of it, but yeah, it was just a mystery sound until I started circuit bending, and all of a sudden I was like, that's what Beck's using, or
That's great.
the producer Nigel Godrich. I think is the one who is responsible for bringing circuit bent stuff into the recording sessions. But so
that's fun. That's super fun.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things that I really appreciate about what you're doing with music is you are taking the time to create unusual sounds, bring them into a session, and they have all the qualities of making digital music, but they have, or when I say that, I mean, they have all the abilities to create rhythms, to create soundscapes, to create arpeggios, to create melodies, but they just have a very realistic and mystery quality to them, which makes it a lot more fun to listen to. Yeah, so that's just a comment on that. So
no,
let's see.
I agree. Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. So to follow on that, we'll just kind of jump around a little bit. But I like to ask guests to share an inspirational quote sometimes. And if you have anything that comes to mind that has inspired you in this world of making music, or if there's just somebody, like Reed Galalo that has inspired you, what might that be?
What is something I could quote without sounding pretentious is the question.
No, there's no such thing. Go for it, man.
There is, I think part of my ethos is, and I'm going to get the quote wrong, but I'll at least, get the gist of it. One of my little lights turned off. Kurt Vonnegut, I'm a big fan of.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut. And one of his quotes is, look, we are here on this earth to fart around and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise.
I love it, man.
And that, you take it with a grain of salt because, there's a lot of atrocities that happen in the world, but that's kind of where I try to keep my level, It's like what I'm doing, I never take what I'm doing too seriously. And I think that kind of captures that essence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rockstars, if you want the ultimate toolkit for your music, check out Complete 15 from Native Instruments. With 165 instruments and over 150,000 sounds to choose from, it is the most powerful creative tool in your studio. From Contact 8 to Massive X, Battery, and Guitar Rig 7 Pro, you've got everything you need to create in any genre. Pair that with Native Instruments control keyboards and machine hardware, and you get next-level integration that makes music creation fun, fast, and seamless. Head on over to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Yeah, I think it's great. It's that playfulness. I mean, we talk about that on the show a bunch. I remember doing a lot more of that in my early years of making records and doing it now, but more in, with the guitar pedal as I'm playing guitar or with plugins as I'm mixing. It can become a challenging balance to keep that, paint like a baby kind of mentality, like Picasso would talk about, and balance that with, running an efficient studio and doing sessions for people and things like that, where you got to move so fast and recall things.
What was his quote? Again, it's not his quote, but he basically said it took me 50 years to paint like a master and then another 20 to learn how to forget it, or something along those lines. Yeah.
And he's like, and so with that in mind, I've probably got a few years left, so I'm going to go paint.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know how old he lived to be. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, so let's keep talking about some of these cool things you've done. Contact microphones. So one of the videos that's up on your channel is called Contact Microphones, or which ones actually sound good, and then my question was, which ones do we want? Any faves? So tell us about contact mics. Maybe first of all, what are they? You can give us the brief overview, because obviously the video is what we should go watch if we want to really do a deep dive on it.
Yeah, sure. And that's a good point. Whatever I talk about here, there's a good chance if people want to actually see what I'm talking about, they'll be able to see it on YouTube or Instagram.
Yeah, and it's cool because you can really hear the results and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So contact microphones have been around forever. Their main element inside is called a piezo element. It's typically a disc. And what that element does is it will turn vibrations into an electric signal. And of course, this is all oversimplification. But what you can do is take that electronic signal and reinterpret it into audio. So it's a microphone in the sense that whatever it's touching, it will pick up the vibrations from that object. And we're
actually quite familiar with them. You know why? It's because they're in all of our phones and devices and alarms Everything.
They are
everything that makes that beeping sound is a
Yep.
piezo usually, isn't it?
Yeah. So they work both ways, right? So when they are fed an electric signal in the right, configuration, they can also make sounds. They can vibrate.
Yeah.
So the same way that they create electricity when they're struck or they vibrate, and then we turn that into audio. When they receive electricity, they can vibrate and turn that into a buzz, like you said, an alarm, or they can actually be a speaker. So contact microphones take those piezo elements, and depending on the type of contact microphone, whether it's a passive microphone, which means it's just simply one of those elements soldered to an instrument cable, it can be that simple. Or if it's an active contact microphone, it's going to be one of those piezo elements, but then it will have some circuitry built into it as well, whether it's a preamp or preamp with filtering that is then powered with your phantom power. So active contact microphones are much more robust in the signal that they give you. But passive microphones are sort of like the first step of getting into contact microphone fun. And passive contact microphones are still great. But there's a next level that's greater.
Yeah. And, to that point also of being familiar with these, if we have an acoustic guitar and it's got a bridge pickup, that's usually a piezo. Sometimes I call it a piezo element too. Is it piezo? Is it like an Italian name or something? I don't know.
I don't know. That's something that I should know the actual origin of, but I've always said it piezo and I haven't been corrected.
Oh, I'm not correcting you now. Not correcting you. But
that's my way of I'm saying that I think that's the correct way. But yeah, that's I don't know the origins.
So they're in our acoustic guitars. They're violin pickups, bass pickups, all kinds of stuff. It's just basically, picks up the vibration of an instrument. And so when you buy these contact mics, they're often come as discs, right? And then when they're built into something more robust, it's like the housing element that holds the disc.
Yeah.
And you can get these super cheap ones on Amazon and stuff like that, or wherever, just order them on the internet.
You can. And I just grabbed a handful of some of the ones that were behind me that I just used. So the video that you were talking about, I just finished it last week. So in my studio right now, I just have piles of the cabling I was using for examples and other microphones. Yeah, so the ones that you'll typically use, I shouldn't say typically, but you can use for like guitar pickups, sometimes we'll have a suction cup like that. So this is a contact microphone. I put a little sticker on it because I was tired of seeing the brand name on it in my videos. And this is an example of a passive contact microphone. There's no circuitry or anything in here. It's just here you go. I've got my little tray of piezo discs that I use to build my own. It's literally one of these little guys. Inside there. And it's also there's a big quality between having a balanced and an unbalanced contact microphone as well, if that means anything. Having
now they don't make
signals.
Unbalanced for passive though, right?
They do. Yeah.
Oh, they do really.
Yep. So almost all the passive mics you find will be unbalanced. So for instance, here's the one I was just showing for guitars. If you look at the tip, it's just a mono signal tip.
Right, but they don't make a balanced version unless you do a preamp circuit. That's what I was wondering.
So you can balance a passive microphone, and that's what I showed in the first video, where if you take two piezo elements, and I'm not going to get in the weeds, too far in the weeds. So like, here you go. This is one I made where it's actually two piezo elements back to back that I have glued together. And because that gave me the additional circuit pathway by giving me an extra cable, I'm then able to use a balanced XLR connection properly with the signal. And I do a little demo on video of the difference between wiring up a balanced versus unbalanced contact mic that is
that's cool.
Passive. Yeah, and there's a huge difference. Just the signal is a lot more rich. But again, moving from this to an active contact microphone is that's a huge step up.
It's a little bit like if just a regular piezo is like a pizza, that thing is a little bit more of a hot pocket. It's like a pizza sandwich or something, right?
Yeah. And what's cool is you can put a magnet in between the two, and all of a sudden you've given it a little superpower, or it can stick to, a lot of times you're recording metal objects that make cool bings and bangs, and it'll just stick to it magnetically. But yeah.
That's really hip. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you use these things once you've got them built. And I'll add to that the why we care. So one of the reasons I think we care is because when you hear these sounds, Rockstars, and you hear what a contact mic can do, it's a little bit mind-blowing, because if you're familiar with miking things up with a microphone, sometimes you can get in close to sounds and you can hear that there's a cool sound in there with a microphone, especially a condenser microphone, but then you also sort of hear other things that make it sound a little too much like it's being picked up by a microphone. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's like, it's too revealing. It's too much like a clear mirror window, and these give you much more of a mysterious quality.
Yeah, so your microphone's going to pick up anything that's vibrating through the air. So that's another example I used in the first video I posted, where I have a tongue drum, and it's like, look, here's what a tongue drum sounds like in my HVAC room, with the fan running. So it sounds like exactly what you expect it to sound like, a big old noisy fan. But that same recording, I have, a contact microphone on it. So when I switch over to that, you can see it's crystal clear. You don't hear any of the ambient room sound. Even though I'm in an HVAC room, it's just a nice crisp sound of the tongue drum. So you can apply that to other items that you might not even consider might be making cool sounds worth recording, like a paper, like a laser printer. We all know what it sounds like. We know what it sounds like through the air that's bouncing on our ears. Once you put a contact microphone on there, and you start hearing the inner workings clicking and clacking, that are vibrating through the printer, all of a sudden, and Lord forbid you put that through Reverb, because then there's no turning back. I just pulled out this printout I have. That's part of the next video I'm putting up. That's sort of like a bonus episode for this series on contact mics. And I'm calling it 100 Things to Record with a Contact Mic. Trying to keep,
cool.
Most of these items common enough where, somebody's just getting into recording with contact mics, they'll be able to say, oh, I've got like 80 of these things lying around. I can try too. But to your question of how can you record with a contact mic, there's like a list of, if you can see it on camera, I've got I think this list is up to 170 things now, of which I've gotten about 60 recorded for this series. So it's been really exciting. And actually, I had mentioned before we started taping that if we got into the contact microphone discussion, that there was a sound that I recorded yesterday that was one of the most surprising results I've gotten out of a contact microphone recording, because it sounds nothing like what you would expect. And if you want me to hazard playing this over our stream, I'd love for you to try
I'd love
to guess.
hear it. Yeah. Let's hear it. As long as it's not music, because we don't want YouTube to cut it out for us.
It is not music, I will tell you that. So I'm going to screen share, but what I want you to do is maybe not look at it at first, so you can't see what it is, and try to guess based on the sound. So here, I am going to share I am going to share my screen, but since I'm
closing
playing
my eyes, so hopefully it'll stay and record.
Let me see if I can just share in QuickTime because I'm going to be playing the video of it. So here goes. Don't look. And now hopefully when I hit play here, you'll hear some audio. I am going to turn it down just in case it's hot. And
now, should I just use my hand like this, or should I go get my sleeping goggles, my sleep mask,
I trust you to use your hand.
All right.
Here you go. Let's see. Do you hear this?
Look, when it comes to finishing your music, nothing compares to iZotope Ozone 12. This is a complete mixing and mastering suite of tools with 20 pro modules to shape your sound. You'll find the new bass control for a tight, powerful low end, new unlimiter to restore life to overcompressed tracks, and new stem EQ so you can rebalance vocals and drums and bass without even opening the mix session. And when it's time to make your music loud, the IRC5 Maximizer gives you loud, clean mixes and masters that still sound open and clear. Save time with AI-powered workflows that keep you in the driver's seat. Ozone 12 takes the guesswork out, but you stay in control so your music translates everywhere, from streaming to stage. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Howdy Rockstars, we're back now for the jam session. My guest today is Rich Bernett, joining us from the Sound of Machines in Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, so are you ready to jam, dude? Shall we jump back in?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. You were getting ready to show us some cool stuff. I think you had something you were about to show us.
Yeah. I wanted to see if you could guess what this sound is that I captured with a contact microphone yesterday. And since we were talking about the types of surprising sounds that you get when you put a contact mic on something, this immediately came to mind because I did not expect this at all. So your listeners might also have fun trying to guess what this is. So I'm going to share now that I know it will actually work. All right. So this sound, let me know if you hear it. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like voices.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and spoil it. This is the sound of a contact microphone that is in a little Tupperware worth of water. And then on top of the contact microphone, I have placed a piece of children's sidewalk chalk. And what's happening, to the best of my basic physics understanding, is that this chalk must be either releasing air that's trapped in it for some reason, or it's absorbing air in it. But you're hearing just the sound of air escaping. Here, listen to it again.
Wow. I think it's the sound of the chalk doing scream therapy from all the torture it's received at the hands of kids drawing on sidewalks.
I thought that the sound, so I also have a video where I attach the contact microphone to the chalk and then draw with it. I thought it would be much more pleasing, but I also recorded that, and it is the sound of an avalanche. It is crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, so you can't really tell, but the video of me recording the sound is 6 minutes long, which is so much longer than what I usually record, because it just keeps going and making the coolest sounds. At one point, it sounds like a synthesizer. So yeah, I love them. I love the contact mics all the way.
Yeah, well, it's cool because you can hear things that are not hearable. Inaudible's probably the technical word, but I like not hearable.
Yeah, I dig it.
And you can hear where you don't belong. And that's what makes it so interesting. Yeah. And
my son,
there's, like, to your point, there's stuff that happens in places that you're just not aware of. The movement and water bubbles. Chemical reactions, things like that.
Yeah, so my son loves bringing things to me that make sound now, and he's like, "Oh, you should try this." But he knows, like, he'd be like, "You should try putting it on a chainsaw motor," and then he'll say, "Oh, wait, we can hear that through the air, so maybe that's not the best thing to record." And that's sort
Right,
of
right.
what I try to go for. Yeah.
So what kind of contact mic was that would allow you to dunk it under the water and all that kind of stuff?
So it was an active contact microphone, but that doesn't mean that it's waterproof. This particular active microphone happens to be waterproof, and it's a guy named Ed Devane out of Ireland makes these. His company is called Soniform, Soniphorm, and I reached out to him because he does some really cool stuff on Instagram as well. Um, and when I saw that he had also developed these surface exciters, I reached out to him. And I was like, "Man, I've got to buy like X, Y, and Z." And he replied, and he said he dug what I was doing, and he was like, "Let me just send you some stuff." I was like, "Are you okay?"
That's
Sure.
great. That's always fun.
And yeah, so that's one neat thing about having an okay or a decent Instagram, following is that um some companies, like a lot of the active contact mics I use, folks
Mhm.
sent me just to be like, "Hey, try this out. Let me know what you think."
That's
And
hip.
yeah, oh, it's awesome. It's so cool. And those Soniform mics, just like I said, happen to be waterproof, so I was using that for that. They're also magnetic, so you see them in a lot of my videos.
Oh, that's cool. Right. So yeah, a suction cup means you could stick to some things that are, non-porous surfaces. A magnet,
Glass.
you could stick to metal, at least magnetic
hmm
metals.
Yep.
And then I guess you could do you sometimes do Velcro if you want to stick to fabrics? Does that even work?
Um, I haven't tried fabrics, but another very common adhesive that you'd use with contact microphones is mounting putty. So it's
Hmm.
it's it's like a sticky putty. People will use it for whatever, putting posters up on their walls if they don't want to put
Hmm.
holes in there. But I use that on stuff like that chalk I was telling you that I actually attached it to chalk and then drew with it. Sticky putty on there, and that way you're not handling the microphone trying to hold it on as well, because it will pick up the sounds of your joints moving. That's how sensitive
Oh,
they are.
wow. Oh, have you tried recording
Yeah.
your hand?
If you're holding on to if you're like, "Oh, I want to see what the mic sounds like on this mouse," and you're holding the mic on there, yeah, it'll hear the sound of, if you've got noisy joints, it'll pick that up as well. So
Wow.
adhesives,
What
yeah.
have you explored recording body parts just to find out what your body sounds like?
I The only thing that I tried, like actively tried to record, is my heartbeat, and you tend to pick up so much extra noise. Like I said, like trying to hold it on, you hear like any slight movement of like you moving the mic, and not to get too graphic, but I got a hairy chest, and I'm not going to tape that sucker on there. And um, and then, like, one of the things on my list of 170 things to record that I actually crossed off was the sound of putting a contact mic on my jaw and then crunching like chips or tortilla chips or something, because
Oh,
I know
yeah.
that there's an
We
audience
all know
that
what
would
that really
just,
sounds like when you experience it.
yeah, right. But people would just unsubscribe because I know that that would just disgust the hell out. So it's like, hey,
We
I'll
get to
try
do that
once. Yeah.
here. So I think the next question I would ask about this too is, how do you think about sounds like these? Because you've got, on the one hand, some sounds are sort of like special effects sounding. And then some sound, on the other hand, you're a musician. You want to make music with musical elements. So how do you like to approach the combination of those two things and sort
Yeah.
of use it usefully?
So, I do look at it from a few different viewpoints. One of them being, how do I use this sound in the context of a song? And a lot of times I will start a new arrangement with something from a contact microphone that has no, tonal qualities or rhythmic qualities, but then by, in Ableton, um, by tweaking it and looping it and finding transients and building on that, then all of a sudden you're creating something that's got a recognizable rhythm. But I don't always know that at the point when I'm recording. Sometimes I'll record the sound and say, dude, that was so cool. And then forget that I've got the recording. It's
Right.
So I guess that speaks more to the fact that it's exciting for me. The experimenting is just as exciting for me, and the that aha, moment is just as exciting as listening to a song that I've somehow weaved it into.
To your point, like this idea of, on the one hand, we're creating music. On the other hand, we get lost in the sound. Sometimes we feel like that's, like sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for that. Sometimes we accuse ourselves of doom scrolling if we're just listening to synthesizer patches or something. But I would also suggest that unless we can't pay the bills and unless we get this thing done in that moment, then, why not? Like we're here to be creatives. We're here to make stuff and experience, and every element of that adds up in the way,
Yeah. And that's actually an interesting point, because that's something that I'm learning to kind of rearrange my idea of what it means to be successful, I guess.
Right.
So
right.
I had my career path pretty much on point, as marketing strategist, and just with the economy being what it is and everything, that's just fallen apart. But realizing that the amount of people that follow me doing this like side gig, which for years, like doing these experiments was something I do outside of work. Work is what supports my family. And this was fun, and it was neat. It was a great serotonin hit to see like my follower count go up on Instagram. But that's all that ever was. So with my career, being in this weird state of flux, I had to sit down with my wife and said, what if I try to figure out how to make it work, so that my creative endeavors can become this, it sounds gross to say revenue stream when you're talking about creativity, but what if I can turn these creative pursuits into something that allows me to support the family? So to your point of being like, if you're not able to pay the bills or something like that, I'm trying to make it to where this exploration is what, people are then subscribing to Patreon to learn more about, or to download the samples, and just me doing this stuff, and finding this out live and sharing it. If that can support me and my family's lifestyle, for me personally, that would be like, holy crap. I had no idea that was a possibility. I thought I'd have to do a, 9 to 5 sort of thing for the rest of my life, which I was okay doing, and keeping this sort of like experimental stuff as a side project. But it's only been a year. Like I still feel like I'm new to this part of it, the part of sort of marketing the Sound of Machines as a brand, and kind of pushing people to like Patreon, which is the only way I feel like creative folks can actually make a livable income right now. But still, it's only been a year since I've been doing this, and the feedback and engagement I've gotten in that year is just, it's been so great. It's been, exciting and humbling and really cool to see. Like you reached out to me on Instagram.
It's one of the nice things about it is like, I can discover your YouTube channel, and there's not really a way to communicate with you there. Comments are possible, but you probably get a lot. And then, Yeah, I remember. Just go check Instagram, and maybe send a message. Sometimes that works.
Yep.
And it has
Yeah,
worked
so
before.
yeah, you reaching out to me is just another. It was just another like little tick in the things are working, box for this sort of direction I'm going in.
Tell us about the Jangle Box. What is that? There's a cool video where you create this thing you call the Jangle Box, and next thing I know, I'm listening to like, I don't know, man, insane EDM music at the end. It's awesome.
I wish I knew you were going to ask about that because currently the poor thing is, hold on.
Has it been?
It's been repurposed as many of
apart?
I mean, it still looks similar to what it looked like in the video, but I have repurposed quite a few of the parts. It's no longer operational.
Wow.
Like with a lot of my other prototypes. As I then move
what is
on
it
to
essentially?
The next prototype. Yeah,
like
so
as concept
this is a motorized string instrument where there are. So this is just a box I repurposed from some decorative purpose.
Let me request this. When you show it specifically, hold it dead center so that if it cuts to a small shot, we'll still see it.
Yes. Yeah, so you can see that there are 4 strings in here, and these are guitar strings that are fed through the top, and they each have their tuning mechanism. So I can, pitch these strings up and down. There's sort of a quasi bridge here, which is just a little metal bar that I cut to size. That was probably scrap as well. And then there's these 4 hobby motors that are all attached with their little holders that have propellers on them. And when these propellers spin, they pluck the strings that they're closest to. And so that they're not all just spinning at the same time, making a cacophony, you can trigger each one of the motors with little buttons down at the bottom. And again, you can see that there's some holes here because I have repurposed some of the electronics. But I had also made this before understanding the difference between balanced, unbalanced, active, passive contact mics. So what I have here for picking up this instrument is this passive contact mic. These are like the cockroaches of contact mics. If you search for contact mics online, these will take, like this model right here takes up like the first 50 results. And they're just the most basic, options. But so the video you saw, I was actually recording with room mics because there's a lot more, there's a lot more of a wooden quality that you actually hear when it's in the room with you versus just recording the sound of the vibrations on it. But yeah, this thing, I mean, it's jangly, right? So it's a monster. And so Jangle Box.
Are you ready to launch your career in the audio or entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, right here in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs to prepare you for the industry. From studio production and live sound to audio for film and a whole lot more. You'll learn by doing, working with professional-grade gear alongside experienced industry pros. If you're more into the business side of entertainment, SAE's Entertainment Business Program teaches essential basics like contracts and promotion to help you navigate the industry. With diploma, associate, or bachelor's degrees, there's a path for everyone. Plus, Career Services supports graduates as they take the next step. Want to see it for yourself? Immerse yourself in Nashville's exciting music scene and book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. But you can change pitch too of the notes and stuff a little bit. And you can do, to the point of EDM music is just that reminder that sometimes, we can make sounds that maybe don't hold a pitch steady, but maybe they're like and then you get into the loop world where that becomes really compelling.
So with the spinning motors, each time the fan hits, it creates a transient. So then if you take this audio file into Ableton or some program that can find those transients and then use those as triggers, or you can time stretch it to make those transients hit a hard beat, all of a sudden you've got this sound that nobody knows exactly what the heck it is, but it just adds that neat textural element, to whatever you're working on.
Yeah, that's
so yeah,
fun.
great point. And to your point of being able to tune the strings, on the video I made for it, on one video I made for it, that I was recording for samples, I deliberately tightened and tightened and tightened it till the string broke, so I could get that sound of it just twang.
That's good. Yeah. Might as well get some use out of the breaking string, because the rest of the time it just drives you bananas.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, whenever I create something like this, I never consider it to be like precious, it's like I want to be able to push these creations to the breaking point. I don't know what that says about me, on a psychological basis. It's
you like breaking stuff. It's all right, man.
Yeah, make it and break it, and don't make something and assume it has to sit on a pedestal and just be pretty.
So one of the things that it reminds me of too is there's a guy who's an artist who's doing something a little similar to what you're doing out of Czech Republic. His name is Peter Valek, and I've been following him for a while. And his Instagram is called The Vape Noise. I think you would really dig it up. Yep. You've seen it before, yeah.
Yep.
Great noise machines and artwork and like crazy.
He's got a style.
Ideas.
Yeah, he's got a style where you just immediately know whose video it is. And it's this great aged, if it's wood, it looks repurposed. If it's metal he's using, it's bent and it's tarnished. I love his stuff. It's definitely more chaotic than I'm comfortable going.
Yeah, this is his Instagram right here.
Yeah.
Let me know if you can see that all right.
I can.
And it's like fun. And you've done some noisemakers that reminded me of this too, like with the machines.
Sure,
I guess if my mouse hovers, it kind of ruins the experience, so that's a bummer, but let me see.
But yeah, I still.
And there's one, I love the artwork like that too.
Yeah, his art's so cool.
One of yours in particular, let me see if I can remember the title of it. It's Piezo Mics, a Motorized Platform and Weights. And I was like, my note on it, this one just blew my mind. Can you explain it?
Yeah, so I actually thought you were going to mention a different one. But yeah, that one is self-explanatory. That's pretty much it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
okay. Sorry, go back to my corner.
Yeah. They oh my goodness. Yeah. What in the heck was I thinking when I made that? So what I had was a little turntable, and it was made for cake decorating, actually. And you put a cake on it and it'll spin it. But what I did is I put one of my workout weights, a 10-pound plate on it. So it's this heavy, maybe they're iron, I don't know what they're made of, but it's a heavy metal platform on there. So that when it's spinning around, if you just lightly dangle another one of those heavy weights on it so they are rubbing against each other, it creates a really cool atmospheric rumbling, a metal rumbling sound. So I create a little jig that holds one of the 10-pound plates just at the right height, so it's grinding on each other, and put a piezo element on both on that plate, and I want to say I put another piezo somewhere else. But yeah, then I ran those through a few, I believe, tremolo effects. It was a few years ago, so I'm struggling to remember everything I fed it through. But yeah, it created this soundscape that was incredible. Again, just based off of that one sound.
Yeah, so that's the thing, like the soundscape of the sound coming through heavy metal objects into a piezo pickup gives you that access to a certain sonic world that you wouldn't necessarily hear otherwise. But the other element that I thought was cool, and I wanted to ask you as a topic, is the approaches that give you rhythmic quality, where you're creating the drum beat out of it or something like that. And it looked like you might have actually triggered other piezos, might have been triggers for samples or something too, maybe. I couldn't quite tell.
So I do, you can do some heavy processing. You can turn any, with DAWs these days, you can turn any input into any other sound. But one thing that I like to do with a sound that has transients, which that didn't have heavy transients unless I turned the motor on and off. Whenever it started, it made a new transients. But you can take transients and feed them through like MIDI trigger plugins and say, okay, every time there's a transient on this thing, trigger a kick or trigger whatever, trigger a synth note. And that no longer sounds like what you're recording, but it's still being triggered by what you're recording. So when you mix that signal back in with the rest of the processing going on, all of a sudden you start getting these rhythmic qualities, especially if you then take that kick that was triggered and say, okay, put a delay after that to kind of create a bit more of a rhythmic quality to it. And this is another 2-hour discussion, just going through effect chains, right? Processing chains.
Well, Ableton Live is so good for that too. I immediately noticed that when I first discovered that.
So I'll take, so like these guys, I was making these.
Right, I remember that thing.
Yeah, so I was calling these rotary drones, and it needs to be plugged in to work. I don't have it plugged in right now. But this is, it's got a little motor inside and it spins this disc, and inside of the top here is a piezo element.
Now you're building these out of wood? Is that a wooden box or is this
Yeah, it's wood. So I have access to a laser cutter at a makerspace out this way.
Wow, because that's really assembled. I mean, that really looks like it's printed up in a factory or something.
So before I get onto that, I was just going to say, it's just the sound of a motor spinning. But when you run this through various effect chains, all of a sudden you've got a symphony. So yeah, that's a discussion that I would love to get into too. But I am trying to be more out of the box these days. A little less reliant on affecting sounds within the box. But I love that element too.
Well, let's talk about that, because I mean that is part of my question. Like, how can we? I mean, if you used the rotating things to just give you the rhythmic pattern that was then triggering samples, what about if our next move is like, yeah, but how can I avoid that sample in the first place? How can I just get a kick drum sound out of something with a contact mic, or a snare drum sound out of it? And what happens if you just mic up a drum kit with piezos?
Yeah, all valid questions. And that's absolutely some of the directions that I've been looking into, especially now that I've collected a few more pedals as part of my pedal feedback series. I am looking into like side chaining. Okay, I've got this wall of sound that's coming through this feedback loop. What if I wanted to duck? I hadn't found any way to do that if it wasn't with, now for me personally, with the software. I wasn't going to buy a compressor just for this. But it turns out that this company, Ranger Effects, made a pedal that does side chaining.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's called a Deep Space Pulsar. So like little things like that. So now I can feed like one of my little sequencers, like whatever I want to feed through here that has a rhythmic quality. I can hook a metronome through this, and then all of a sudden you're getting that duck of volume in that wall of sound from your feedback loop, and you're creating these really cool pulsing patterns that originally I didn't know how to do if it wasn't in Ableton. So there's like give and takes. It's like maybe I won't I won't have this whole suite of drum sounds that I can trigger if I'm not in the box. But that's cool too, because who knows what you might find as a solution and how it'll sound when it's in the real world. And there's something more tactile about that really draws me. But not to say I don't love Ableton. I could spend a full month just in the box as well.
No, I applaud that. And I was going to point out there is one compressor that you might consider too. The Alesis, what is it? The 3630, the old school one that had a side chain. I think that was like, I learned from a buddy of mine that was sort of the Daft Punk side chain compression. So those are you grab one of those before you'll get it before the episode comes out, so you'll be good.
Yeah. I've had people say, "Oh man, I can't find those pedals anymore." Like when I was building my Cassettones, which are the
we need to check that
synthesizers.
Out next,
You can't find those cassette players anymore, and people blame me for it because the tutorial I made went off, and a lot of people are building them, and they're like, "It's your fault." Like, no, I don't think it is my fault.
People are building them, so
yeah. And I love the fact that like sometimes I'll be on YouTube and I'll see what like my Cassetone like that. I didn't make that, and realize that it's somebody showing off their build, and that's really cool to see.
Do you want to pivot to the Cassetone? I feel I should jump to some questions about your music too, but we're getting there. So tell me about the Cassetone, or show it to us if you want, and I'll while you go grab it, I'll continue asking you. Oh, you can't hear the question though, so
I can't hear the question.
I'll bring it up.
Hold on,
I'll ask it
right
twice.
there. Okay,
go ahead.
There I go.
All right, Rockstars, I'm about to ask him about the cassette loops that he offers on his website too, because that's really cool. He's going to get some cool stuff right now from the other shelves. It's like a mad scientist walking around the room. All right.
As I grunt and groan like an old 80-year-old man.
No, we couldn't hear a thing. Good. I was giving some play-by-play.
So this was, again, just a side project where I was thinking to myself, I think it was maybe 5-6 years ago that I made these guys, where I was saying, okay, if a cassette can just play a loop of like a single note, whatever note.
Hold it a little higher. I can't quite see it.
Okay.
Oh, there, groovy, yeah. Oh, and the cassette's on top.
Yeah, so this was the first one I made as a test. And what it is a hacked cassette player. Oops, I bonked my mic. It's a hacked cassette player, so that goes back to my kind of like circuit bending leanings. And the cassette players, there's actually a variable speed potentiometer in these cassette players. I think they set it at the factory to the best of their abilities.
Right, but you can change it to what you want.
You can hack into it and then connect 4 or 5 or however many variable resistors you want. And then if you wire it up in the right way, then you can trigger different speeds of your cassette player with different keys. So what I did is, I made it so that you can change the pitch for each key with the variable resistor.
Oh, cool.
So
does it take a little bit of portamento to get to the next speed?
A bit of a ramp, but it's fast. And it's, it's just a characteristic of what you're using here. This is a really low end tape player. This is not, something that you would covet. And it comes with all the sonic, capabilities. Unfortunately, it sounds like what it's going to sound like. But as a like DIY instrument, people really engaged with this. So what I did is then I made a tutorial. I built the second version, which is same, internal guts. And that's what the first thing I posted on YouTube that ever like really took off was the tutorial I made for how to build one of these.
Yeah. Hey, rock stars, imagine sitting down at your DAW with 165 instruments and over 150,000 sounds to choose from. That's what Complete 15 from Native Instruments delivers, the most powerful creative tool in your studio. Inside, you'll find Contact 8, Massive X, Battery, and Guitar Rig 7 Pro, giving you everything you need to create in any genre. Plus, you'll get inspiring sampled instruments like upright bass and electric keys, along with endless expansions to keep your sound fresh. Whether you're producing hip-hop, scoring films, or creating EDM bangers, Complete 15 has you covered. Pair that with Native Instruments control keyboard and machine hardware, and you get next-level integration that makes music creation fast, fun, and seamless. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off.
So my thought, to go back to one of the things I mentioned where I decided, hey, maybe I'll focus on my creative endeavors and see what I can do, as a way to make money, is I took that idea and said, okay, well, maybe if I take it one step further, that would be the next logical step. And so that's when I started developing oh boy, hear all this stuff just falling over.
The oh boy. Yeah. That'd be a good name for it.
The oh boy.
Your soundbite.
The Cassettone 2 was going to be my next baby, and it's still in progress, but it has been a labor of love, because every time I fix one little issue, like 2 more electronic issues pop up, I'll hit this button and the wrong player will play. So my thinking is that so this is a working prototype that I made. Hopefully you can see it.
Yeah, it's got
my window on my side.
On
yeah. So you can trigger, depending on the speed control for each player, two different sounds at a time. And you can blend between the two. For each key, you'll have different blend settings.
Oh boy, that's going to be cool, man.
Yeah, so this uses these little tape player, they're called movements, that you can find on AliExpress. Again, super cheap. They're not hi-fi, but they still give you this really cool sound.
Wow. What's AliExpress?
Yes.
Is that one of the Chinese marketplaces or something like that?
Yeah. Sometimes if you're looking for like certain cables or dials and you're like, I bet you nobody makes those. That's just something I'm imagining. Try searching for it on AliExpress and it'll be like, holy crap, somebody does make that. And it's like 15 cents.
For somebody who's never used it, if you find something there and then you're like, oh, I'll get it. And then you're wondering, is there anything you want to say about how you just simply put in your money? I mean, you put in your info, make an account, and it's just like ordering off of any other site. Amazon. It just takes a minute to get there.
Yep. So
all right.
Amazon versus AliExpress. And, we're leaving out the whole ethics of who they,
right,
give money to, et cetera, because I don't want to poo-poo that. But if you're just looking at it on the surface level, Amazon is fast but expensive.
Right.
AliExpress is cheap for a lot of times the same exact thing, just not under the manufacturer's name, but it takes a lot longer because it is coming from China. But sometimes, like I said, I'll order bulk piezo discs from AliExpress. You just can't find, on Amazon. But I wanted to show the latest prototype. So this is the Cassettone. I'm calling it the Mark II because I actually took a few features off in order to make it work right. So this guy I actually put on Instagram a couple months ago because it finally worked. I just wanted to show folks who are following, the progress of it, that I do have a working model. But I stepped aside while I do this contact microphone series. But once I wrap up the contact microphone series, I am back in full force putting a tutorial together. Yeah. So that's been a really fun adventure. It has made me realize that I will never go into manufacturing or shipping. A lot of people will ask, can you just build one for me? And my answer there is no.
Yeah, well, I think Elon Musk sort of famously says prototyping is easy, production is really hard.
Okay, yeah, it's like even with the with these rotary drones that I made, I sold. I think I put a cap of 25 units. So I put a note up, said, hey, they're going to sell tomorrow. And they sold out, which was awesome. But then actually the reality of, making the parts and putting them together and making sure it worked and shipping them out, that doesn't interest me. And I feel like it's a distraction from the actual creative process of
and people
making.
Should be building them themselves anyway, right?
And that's kind of what I feel like, again, to use the term branding again, but the Sound of Machines, the brand is kind of like, hey, I want to give you the tools to do this yourself. And at a level that is easy to understand for even like a novice. Because like to go back to when I was just learning about circuit bending and stuff, that's, I want to kind of emulate those teachers that I learned from, online that made it easy to understand. So that's kind of where my direction comes from as well when it comes to this stuff.
Very cool, man. Let me pivot to this. So, talk to us about turning field recordings and samples into tonal instruments, because I know that's another thing that you've demonstrated. Maybe you can just kind of discuss the concept of it, and
Sure.
Just to point it in the right direction. It's the learning to work with bandpass EQ filters is sort of a secret weapon in that department, right?
Yeah. So there's a cheat code if you want to take. So I can name a specific example. I put together an album called Under the Weight of Water, and the theme of it is obviously water. And I knew I wanted sounds of water throughout it without being painfully obvious. So I did record, like I put a Tascam recorder in a Ziploc bag and dunked it, in the James River, created a cacophony of noise I didn't want. But you can take that sound of water rushing, and without using bandpass, which I can talk about as well, you can use resonators. So specifically in Ableton, there's a plugin called Corpus, and it applies certain oh my goodness, what resonation? That is not the word. There's a word I'm looking for. Resonance, resonant qualities to an otherwise atonal sound. So something that's just like crunching or water running, you can dial in resonant frequencies. So all of a sudden you start to hear this high E, kind of creeping into this crunchy texture. And Corpus is cool because you can say, hey, make this sound like it's resonating through a pipe, like a metal pipe. Make this sound like it's resonating through a plate. So there's a bunch of cool settings there. But to your point about resonant EQ as well, you can force tonal qualities into atonal field recordings by taking an EQ and giving it a really tight focus Q factor.
Narrow band pass.
Narrow band,
Narrow band.
And then just pulling those up. So say like you just find, I have a cheat sheet that says which frequencies relate to which, notes on a keyboard.
Right.
And you can go through and find your, like if you're using an A, find the A frequencies across the board and lift those up. And then all of a sudden you're hearing a chord coming through whatever your field recording is. And it's not that frequency actually existed in the field recording. You're kind of forcing it in there, but it's such a neat way to use field recordings in that sort of tonal, like a wall of sound setting. So
because it gives you the ability to turn sound effect into music.
Yep.
Because
exactly.
The things, what do we need for music? We need rhythmic cues, we need tonal cues, we need pitch cues. What else?
I'm not even going to get into that discussion. That's like asking,
is that stuff you think about though?
Not really. I know that I tend to desire to make noise. Like a lot of people engage with some of the more like just sounds that I create. And once I start taking those sounds and creating like rhythm and arrangements and stuff, I noticed interest just kind of drops off.
Oh,
But
interesting.
that's like,
Wow, fascinating.
yeah. Once it becomes like a music, at least the people who follow me, I guess, for my sound experiments, disengage. But for me, I have a hard time not turning sounds like into
Right.
musical, like songs and stuff. That's just kind of where my that itch in my brain. It's like, oh, this sounds cool. It would sound cooler if you put it to a beat, or it sound cooler if you threw a bass line over this. Hey, why not try putting lyrics over this next? And that I love that process, but I also, like I said, I love the idea of remaining like with the raw elements. I think maybe an upcoming album, I might just focus on more of the noise
That's
stuff.
wild. It's wild. So I have a theory that pops into my head, and it's just as simple as this. When we hear the raw element, then the music that we hear is what we're creating in our head. And when we hear somebody else's taking that and creating it into music, does that all of a sudden put it in a more of a box that gives us room to say, oh, that's not what I was thinking, or something like that. I don't know. I'm just making that up. Because obviously sometimes you hear stuff put into music and you just love it, But music is like that. It's so taste based, It
is, yeah. Well, I have a thing where if a lyricist tends to over explain the specifics of what the song is about in the lyrics, that turns me off. And that's probably the same exact thing. It's like, there are a few artists I can immediately think of where I'm like, I love the quality and the production and the songwriting, but the lyrics are just forcing me to think of one specific vision. And, I turn it off. So,
well, let's talk about your music anyway here, because it still gives us a chance. It's actually one of the benefits of talking about music on a podcast or a video like this is we don't actually necessarily hear it. So it's, again, we're thinking about it in our own context. High Water, you talked a little bit about that. I did have a question. Well, first comment I said was great sounds for all the instruments in that.
Thanks.
And then part of the question is anything special in the drums that we hear on that too. I wondered if you were doing unusual ways of capturing the drum sounds.
So, I am not trained in studio arts. I'm like a lot of DIYers, let's see what it sounds like when I point this microphone at this thing. And I'll remember what sounds good, but a lot of that experimenting I like only comes when I'm making albums. So in that album, I used to be in a band, and I keep in touch with those guys for when I need like a real drum performance, because I'm not a drummer. So a lot of the drums in that album, I have layered. I used a trick where I just recorded the kick and snare toms. We put cymbals in later, but then a lot of times I'll replace the kick with something digital in obvious ways. I never want it to be like, man, that's such a pristine drum sound. You must have recorded that perfectly, where I have just replaced it all with a plugin. So sometimes I'll record the full kit in that album too on just a cheesy cassette player, and then mix that back in. I'll have to speed it up to match, but I'll mix that back in with the drum kit, and it just gives this weird washy, weird phase sound.
As in, you've got multi-track mics for the kick recording, but you also recorded on the cassette recorder live.
Just in the room, sitting there.
Load that in afterwards and kind of rematch it up closely. But it's because it's not perfect, it creates an effect against the drums.
And I'll reamp stuff. I love reamping any instrument. So like if I have a synth that I recorded directly in Ableton, I'll spit it through a guitar amp or a PA amp, either in one of my rooms that are still empty, or I have sewers, like
Right.
sewage systems where,
Right. Right.
my neighbors are going to think that spaceships are landing when they hear like synthesizers in the sewers. But for that album, I actually brought just this little cube amp with my laptop into the woods, and there's a lot of hollow trees, like broken down hollow logs and stuff. And
Yeah.
I fed a lot of drums, drum parts, maybe just the toms in this one, through like logs, and Mike did at the other end.
Man.
And then, of course, in post-production, it always requires scooping out, nasty frequencies, but it still gives you that, like, oh my goodness, are there like crickets in the background of this one? Why are there crickets in the drum track? This is just these messy things that you can tame in the mix. And ultimately it's just little things that kind of pile up. And just, yeah, I'm happy to hear that you've heard those. To be honest, I don't get a lot of feedback about the music I produce other than
It's
like
great.
from my
It's
friends.
great music, man.
That's great.
It's great. So another one, Infinite Line Around the Earth. Really great reverbs on it too. And I know that is I don't know if I call it a fallback, maybe it is, but with a lot of sounds that you create, you kind of, once you even said it yourself, once you put a reverb on the end and you just take out in stereo, it's a whole nother thing. And it kind of can take us to the ambient world. But so part of my question is, where do you find reverbs that you like? Do you find that the plugin world is a great resource for that? Or have you found other places to find reverbs as well?
I have yet to find a reverb pedal that I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like even the Boss, RV5 that everybody loves. It's just, there's something about the sound that I just have never, I haven't found really fits what I'm looking for. So my fallbacks is you'll see a lot of people using Valhalla. Valhalla Vintage Verb. I love that one. Supermassive it's another Valhalla plugin. And Supermassive is both reverb and a bit of delay and modulation built in. And I mentioned that one because I remember specifically using that on Infinite Line Around the Earth. You can hear like screams coming in the background. That are sort of like a reverse. It sort of sounds like a reverse build, but it's actually just the Valhalla plugins. That's my go-to. Like I have that set up on my send channels by default whenever I open a new Ableton session. Yeah.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound weak and distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift for you to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding a lot more like professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools. And the best part is, these mixing techniques will work for you in any DAW, whether you're in Logic, Cubase, PreSonus Studio One, Reaper, or anything you can think of. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode. It's going to be time soon for you to discover spring reverbs and you're making your own plates and things like that.
It's funny you say that because I've got, in one of my notes on my notes app, I've got a list of, what to do next. And one of them is homemade reverbs, whether it's reamping in a room, a sewer.
Oh, yeah. Especially room reamping is so much fun to discover. A couple of thoughts that come to mind. When I was a student in recording in the 90s, and I remember I'd get the AES journal and I would read it once. And this is before the digital was sort of pervasive enough. For architectural designs, for acoustical designs, they would make a model replica of a theater and then take a horn driver and play high frequencies into it and then measure that, and then they would pitch that way down, and it would replicate the acoustic quality of a space. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. So you might be able to do that for reverbs too. You might be able to do, instead of a big metal plate, you might be able to do like a little salad bowl and then just pitch it down. And all of a sudden you've got like a massive reverb in time.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another point about reverbs, like convolution reverbs. With IR, what does that stand for? Impulse responses.
Impulse response, yeah.
You can feed a sound into the engine of this reverb, and it applies that as a reverb tail to another sound. It's just mind-blowing. But you know what doesn't make for a good plate reverb? It's cardboard, which I...
You tried? Oh, that's awesome.
So I actually made this to be a big cardboard microphone. So on the back, I'm trying to get it all in frame.
That's great.
But those are,
see it. It's really
piezo
cool.
elements. What I wanted this for is to...
That's just not a map. That's not just a map of Richmond, Virginia right there.
Richmond, no. So I wanted to capture the sound of all the frogs that we've got that hop around in our backyard.
Oh, nice.
So I put this out there in the spring, and it turns out it just became a big microphone. Like it can hear the engines of cars down the block, so it didn't work.
Oh, wow.
But another thing about reverbs that I'm having a lot of fun experimenting with and playing with are surface drivers, surface exciters, and that's what they use in plate reverbs. So yeah, there's a lot to explore there. So I hope to make that an upcoming series at some point.
Yeah, it's very cool, man. That song, The Infinite Liner on the Earth, my other note reminds me of Dark Side of the Moon. So well done. And then there was another one, speaking of reminds me of, let me think. Blood for Sale. So that one was fascinating because it's like a really great rhythm intro that you created. And the song and the quality of what you did, it actually reminds me of Marilyn Manson, Mechanical Animals. But if it was done as a super chill kind of indie rock electronic version, without being aggro in some sort of way.
I recorded the guitars for those through, it's the cheapest setup, through that Roland Cube amp underneath my stairs in an old townhome that I used to live in. And I think some of the rhythmic, if I'm remembering correctly, the plucking sounds is like a cello that I'm just plucking like a guitar in this dead space under the stairs. And you're bringing these songs up. I'm gonna have to go back now and revisit them because it's been years. And yeah, that's cool.
What's the cube
you made
amp?
That connection. I'll grab
it. Battery powered
right
amp
here.
Or something like that?
It is. Yeah, here.
Okay. Rockstars, he's heading back to get the cube amp right now. He'll be back. Here he comes. Oh, and it's got a strap so you can throw it over your shoulder along with your accordion.
Now, I lost the original strap, so you can see this is actually a camera strap.
Right, totally.
Yeah, that's what it is. You've probably seen these around.
You just it just parks on your chest with the strap going over your neck.
Or you could put it in a backpack, and walk around with some weird, like, I can put a contact mic on a kalimba and, mic it and have this on my back and just, it's got some onboard effects and, they are what they are. But this shows up in a lot of my Instagram videos because I'll be out in the woods.
That's cool.
I'll be, there's a few where I put contact microphones on like tongue drums in the rain. And then I'll just have this close by somewhere on, in a dry spot, amplifying that sound. So yeah, it's a cool little mic amp.
When you do your portable stuff, you mentioned your laptop and the cube amp. So the cube amp looks kind of a little tough, and it's got batteries. The laptop has batteries, but it's maybe less tough. And then you still need to be able to have a microphone that's held with a stand or something, and then also some way to get the microphone recorded in. So that goes right into that. All right.
So this used to be my go-to in the field, the little Focusrite, the Scarlett 414. And this is a great interface, and that's all it is. It's an interface. I know that there's some people who are not into Focusrite, but I really like that one. But I have since moved to, again, there's just piles of stuff here, Lidge.
There's the Focusrite also looks a little bit like the RMEs and stuff. Oh, that's the little Zoom mixer, right?
Yeah. So these are, I don't think they're very new. They've had these around. They actually just released another model. I think it's got like an extra channel. But these are so cool because it's also a recorder. So it's an interface, but it also records. And I'm moving away from like, I've got ideas where I want to put contact mics on suspension lines of a particular walk bridge in Richmond because they have tonal qualities when you hit them. And if I could feed those through here, it's got phantom power if it's an active microphone, then this can feed directly into the cube amp. So again, talking about getting out of the laptop, this allows for a lot more of that capability.
Is that a battery-powered mixer?
It is, yeah, and it's got some onboard effects for what it's worth. But
does it record to an SD card?
It does, and it records 32-bit float, which for recording active contact microphones is great because sometimes you'll hit a contact microphone and it just blows out. It just clips, it distorts. But with 32-bit float, you bring that recording into like Ableton. And all that information is still there. Like you bring that volume down, and it's like it was never distorted.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm not sponsored by these guys. They did not give me this. I bought this, but I'm really liking this.
I have a Sound Devices that I use for this too, and that also does the 32-bit floating point. And it has that same ability, which is cool. But so that Zoom, does it do sort of multi-track? Could you sit there and multi-track a song on it as well pretty easily?
Yes. So it records whether you want it to or not. So there are some limitations. It's always recording 6 tracks. So even if you're only recording one channel, like I do a lot of times, when you look at the card in card read mode, there's going to be 6 audio files.
Okay, so it like does, a broadcast wave format or something.
Yeah, and it does that for you. There's no way to set that differently. A lot of people complain about that, but it's fine. You just have to know that that's what it's doing. But yeah, it's in a lot of the videos I have on YouTube where I'm doing the pedal feedback loops because it gives me all those different inputs for the various loops going on at the same time. And
then does it it's a mixer as well, or it's just more like, so can you blend some things together and then record that?
Yep. Yeah. So it's got to mix out, headphone out, and then it's it's not a fader, it's not a what's the term for touch fader? Slider fader. It's a knob fader. Yeah.
Yep.
So
very cool. Well, I might have to look at that too.
And the fact that it's as small as it is really handy.
This has been a lot of fun, man. Really, really exciting.
Awesome.
So, thank you for hanging with us, Rockstars. I want to remind you 2 things. One is the music that Rich has created in the show notes. Please check it out. It's really good. You're going to dig it. I mean, I already forwarded it to a buddy of mine. Nice. And the YouTube channel is a blast. That's how I discovered you. Go and watch videos on how to do these things. So if you're curious, I would say if you're curious about building one yourself, go watch it. If you're just curious about cool sounds, go watch it because you get the the satisfaction either way. And then your Instagram channel, I hadn't really quite looked at it, but when I went and looked, you've got quite a following there too. So that really seems to have been a focus for you too. So I bet there's a ton of great stuff there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I have seen the most engagement. So my focus now is to sort of build that same sort of engagement on YouTube. Because I uploaded there in drips and drabs because I only upload when I feel like something is done. It's big, it's done. Versus Instagram where you can do something really cool and put it up there, and it hits.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep an eye out. There will be a lot more coming on the YouTube channel as well.
Very cool, man. Well, I've got a closing question. This is one I like to ask all our guests on the show. It's hypothetical, and you get to take the Wayback Studio machine, and you go back in time and you find young Rich, and you say, listen, dude, I've come back to give you this one bit of advice. Here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day. What advice do you want to go back and give yourself if you could?
If you're asking for something that is specifically for the direction that I wish I had gone in, might not be like to be a rock star in the studio, but one thing I wish I would have done much earlier is to focus on turning my interests into a way of making a living, which I'm doing now. If I had done what I'm doing now, if I had started this process 5 years ago when all of these platforms existed, Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, if I had started what I'm doing now back then, I feel like I would be in a place where I would be comfortable. Are we ever comfortable? But that's the advice I would have given myself. I would say, look, the year is going to be 2019. Yeah. Disengage from work and focus on this. If that relates to anybody else's journey, awesome. But that's kind of what I would have done.
I think that's a very shared thought. I mean, I have I'm actually working with a coach that I hired recently, and one of the things he points out is, you might as well just get started on the thing because it's going to be 2 years from now anyway. Then you just will have done it or you won't have done it. So sometimes things seem like a lot at the moment, but it's going to be a year from now. It's going to be 2 years from now before, and then you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other side of that is
go for it. Best
time to start is yesterday. Second best time to start is today. Yep.
Well, groovy, dude. Well, how would you like the rock stars to find you? What if they want to reach out to you?
Sure.
And want to get in touch or they just got questions?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're looking for. Like you're saying, I do have music out there. That's not my main focus, but I am on, Spotify, Bandcamp. And for just seeing what I do, Instagram, like you were saying, is the most active. To go a little deeper, like Instagram is where you get ideas and inspiration. But if you go to YouTube, that's sort of where I then explain what I'm doing on those Instagram posts. And then the rock star level would be then if you wanted to actually support what I do, and that's on my Patreon. So like on YouTube, a lot of times I'll mention, hey, if you want the schematics for this, or if you want a buying guide, or if you want to download these sounds, that's what I make available on Patreon. So seeing that grow has been great. But just search for The Sound of Machines and you'll find me.
That's super cool. And then I forgot to even mention it, but when we were talking about cassettes, your website, one of the things you offer are these cassette loops.
Oh yeah.
Which look super cool.
Thanks. Yeah,
I guess you got to tell us about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, another conversation we can go on about. I've got a bunch here next to me. So I made these in conjunction with the Cassettone 2.
That's great.
And it's a full home DIY process. I made sounds on some standalone synths. I made some sounds in Ableton. I made some sounds with iron bars. And turn them into loops. Made 45-minute long recordings of that sound, and then I'll cut that long tape into specific lengths that fit just right into cassette shells that will make a loop.
Awesome.
I devised sort of a method to not mass manufacture, but to make them faster than just one at a time. And that's also a video up on, I think that's on my Patreon. I forget if it's on
that
YouTube
making of
too.
the tape loops?
Yep. Yeah, I actually did
cool.
on Instagram. Come to think about it, I did a live stream because I had gotten a huge order, and I knew just sitting down cut here, tape here, screw this together would drive me crazy. So I started a live stream so I could chat while I was doing it. And if you want an insight into how I make them, I'm actually explaining the process to people as they're coming in and asking. So
that's great, man. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, we'll check that out. Dude, thanks for hanging with us. Rockstars, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you were listening to the audio, come on over to, whoops, I got a phone ringing somewhere. Come on over to YouTube, and because we got great videos now and you get to see all the stuff that Rich has been showing us. And if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe. And, that really helps this reach more people like yourself. So we just want to make sure everybody gets to make great records. And then drop a comment in too, because I'll be answering all your questions. And if Rich doesn't see it already, I know he's a YouTube expert, so he probably will. But if he doesn't, I'll let him know if there's a good one in there for you.
Yeah, I tend to chime in when people have questions. So that'd be great.
Yeah, and go on over to The Sound of Machines and hit subscribe over there and make sure you check out his channel because you'll be hooked. And I'll be lucky if I see you again. Thanks for watching. Dude, great to see you, man.
All right. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our fantastic sponsors who help make this episode possible. iZotope, Native Instruments, Atom Audio, SAE Institute, Spectra 1964, and Picker. And remember to take advantage of our special coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off at iZotope.com and nativeinstruments.com for any plugin purchase. Don't forget, you can start mixing right now with my free course, Mix Master Bundle. You'll find the link in the show notes below. And if you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors also in those links in the show notes. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They are going to help you make your best record ever. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this, it's a great way to help support the show, and I really appreciate it, and I thank you as well. I'd also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars, Vlad Weselchenko, Jeffrey Simmons, and Max Young. Thank you so much for watching and listening, Rockstars, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.